Hello, I am Xarkun and this is World of Warships Legends. Today we're going to talk about the premium Tier 7 Italian destroyer Paolo Emilio. This is one of two new destroyers to join the Udachi in the very exclusive high-tier premium destroyer club. You can purchase it for 750,000 global XP in the store right now. I'll say right off the bat that this is a very interesting ship. As you might know if you follow any content creators for World of Warships on the PC, this thing is also known there as the Yolo Emilio, because the design of the ship makes it exceptionally good at rushing enemy ships with its torpedoes, a move I strongly advise you do not make except as a last resort in any other destroyer. The Paolo, however, well, let's talk about it. We'll take a look at my mod selection, commander build, the armor viewer, and then jump into some gameplay and talk about the ship's stats and how I think it is best played. So, first up, the mod selection. We have aiming systems mod 1 in the first slot, steering gears in the second, concealment in the third, and the torpedo reload mod in the fourth slot. I want to take a look at the armor viewer very briefly because like other Tier 7 destroyers, the Paolo has 19 millimeters of armor mostly everywhere. You can see that all coated in blue, but it does have a very interesting 60 millimeter armor belt, which should shatter a good deal of high explosive that might be shot at you. And the turrets also, for what it's worth, have 30 millimeters of armor on them, so they might also shatter some HE. It's one of the more heavily armored destroyers, kind of like the Khabarovsk, but maybe not quite as well armored. In any case, my commander is Giuseppe Fulgosi. Sorry if I mispronounced that. We've got Bay and Sims as inspirations. There are two new Italian destroyer commanders, and I've chosen this one mostly for this base trait, which increases Smokescreen deployment time and also the sidestep skill, but I haven't really decided which commander I like best. I've got two games for you, though, for the gameplay segment of this review, and we're going to start by running down the stats really quickly. The first thing you might notice is that the Paolo has a lot of hit points, 24,400 hit points at base, but with the Sims inspiration, I've got that up to a huge 26,640, which is a lot of hit points for a destroyer. As far as the guns, it's got 8 of them, much like the Khabarovsk, the Akizuki, and the Tier 5 Italian destroyer, whose name we will not say. 8 guns, 135 millimeters in caliber, which is a bit of an unusual size. 11.4 kilometer range. I've got that up to 12.1 kilometer range with the sidestep skill on the commander build I showed you. That's the skill in the third row. 10.7 second reload. Very long. It honestly really kind of hurts, and I feel like that reload is designed or balanced around the semi-armor piercing shell type, which this ship does not have. It only has high explosive and armor piercing in World of Warships Legends. 18-second turret traverse time, which is rather long, much like the high-tier Russian Tashkent. 1,950 HE Alpha, which is on par with the Tashkent and Khabarovsk. 9% fire chance, I think exactly the same as those two, although it takes a lot longer for these guns to reload than it does the Tashkent and Kaba, right? 3,000 maximum AP shell damage, AP Alpha Strike. I haven't found the AP on this ship to be quite useful, though. I don't know, maybe I'm just using it wrong, but I think near the end of this video in the second game, we'll see the AP in action. Next up, the Torpedoes, the piece de resistance of this ship, I suppose. It's got 12 torpedoes in 3 quadruple launchers, one on either wing of the ship, and then one down the center line that shoots off either side of the ship, much like the French destroyers, like Le Fantasque, same sort of torpedo setup. These torpedoes with the torpedo reload mod reload in 102 seconds, which isn't honestly all that long, and they have a maximum damage of 23,767, which puts them up there with the IJN torpedo boat torpedoes. In fact, I think these may do even more damage than the Kagero or the Udachi, although they're very comparable to that. They've only got a 6-kilometer range, though, and if you want to fire them effectively from stealth, the targets that you're firing them at have to be pushing into you. As you can see, this Bismarck and GK are here, and of course we get spotted by that lightning behind us. And, you know, our torpedoes miss because both of those battleships have sonar, and since you have to launch them, if you want to launch them really well and effectively from stealth, you're launching them at the ships, they're sailing toward them, makes it a lot less likely that the torpedoes are going to hit. You want the broadside. But again, when they do hit, they hit like IJN torpedoes. They are incredible. They have enough alpha strike probably to dev strike any battleship in the game, provided you hit them all. 6-kilometer range, though, like I said, 67 knot top speed, 1.7 km detectability by sea. But here's the whole idea with this ship and why it's called the Yolo Emilio. In a lot of other destroyers, it's pretty much suicidal to rush a battleship, or at least if you're going to rush a battleship, you're probably going to lose a lot of hit points in the process, and overall it's probably not a very good trade. But with the Paolo, things are different because of this smokescreen. Take a look at this. It is one of the exhaust smokes, like the Italian cruisers, so it follows your ship at essentially full speed, although I think if you're using the engine boost, you can actually outrun it like I did there briefly, so you do need to be careful of that. But it follows you, and the duration that it generates for is like 30 seconds with this commander build, which is partly why I've chosen the commander. So you get 30 seconds of the smoke that follows you. You can get right up next to enemy battleships just like this, and you can dev strike the crap out of them. There goes the Bismarck, and I think we even got a couple torps on that GK there. But, of course, we can flip around, still using our smoke screen as concealment to launch some more torpedoes at the GK, and I think we're going to end up hitting him and taking him down as well. So the smoke screen does hang around in the water for a little while after you've deployed it. You can see it's still got 18 seconds left. So you can pull moves like this and just kick the crap out of battleships. Now, I do worry that the fact that you can do this in this destroyer is going to make newer, more inexperienced players try it as sort of a first resort immediately. And you really can't. Not if you want to be successful in this ship. You really have to plan out these kind of YOLO rushes, right? I initially torpedoed that Bismarck and GK from stealth as they were charging in, but when it became clear that that was not going to be effective, then I went in for them. If I had gone straight for them, keep in mind they do have sonar. Now I assume they were using the sonar because they were spotted. They probably thought a destroyer was there, and I think that sonar helped them avoid the initial set of torpedoes I sent their way. So if I had rushed at them with my smokescreen in the very, very beginning, they probably would have used the sonar, and they probably would have detected me inside of the smokescreen from a lot further away than I was able to get after their sonar went on cooldown. So you really have to think about things like that. You have to know which ships have sonar. You probably need to have a good idea of what their ranges are, and you also need to know about radar ships, because with this sort of playstyle that you want to employ with a Paolo Emilio, it's risky. That smoke screen, the way it follows you, is both a blessing and a curse. It's an advantage and a disadvantage. It's an advantage for all the reasons I just showed, torpedoing the crap out of those 2 German battleships. But it's a disadvantage because the smoke screen sticks to you. You don't really outrun it. For the full 30 seconds, or however long it's puffing out of your smokescreen generator, you are concealed within the smokescreen. Which means if you come up against a target, you have to have somebody else spotting it for you. So you can't really YOLO rush battleships unless somebody else is spotting them for you, or if you maybe shoot at them once, get them to fire back at you and not die, then you can rush at them while their smoke firing penalty is active and use the smoke that way. But you got to make sure somebody's spotting for you rather, and if you're rushing a ship with sonar or radar that isn't being spotted or whatever the case is, yeah, if you're rushing it and it isn't being spotted, and then you deploy that smoke, well, they can spot you with the sonar or the radar, and you can't even get out of the smoke. This is especially bad if you run up against a German destroyer, say, and you rush at them with smoke, with your smoke on. They can use their sonar and they can detect you, and there's no way you can get out of the smoke to see them until the smoke is done generating. So you have to be very careful about how you line up these YOLO rushes and how you deploy this smoke. You have to think a lot about how you're going to position yourself and make your moves, so to speak. So the YOLO rushing in this destroyer, I feel like a lot of newer, more inexperienced players are probably going to go at it instantly, and they're probably going to kill maybe one ship and then essentially be out of the game almost instantaneously, just like they do in basically any other destroyer that doesn't have the benefit of being designed to YOLO torp. I think if you followed my channel, you know that I don't think YOLO torping for the most part is a sound strategy. I think it's a very bad thing. I think it's something you should avoid doing. But this ship is designed to do it, and if you want to do it effectively, you got a plan. In any case, this game is pretty much a wash. We are obviously going to win. So as it winds down, let's talk a little bit more about some of the stats. The anti-aircraft. I don't think there's CVs in either of the games that I'm showing you here, but the AA power on this ship is lacking. It's got an overall AA defense rating of 30, with very low average damage per second on all of its AA guns. I think in one game I just absolutely got shut down by a Lexington. He sent squadron after squadron at me. He eventually ended up killing me, and I think I shot down maybe 2 planes total out of all the planes that Lexington sent at me. So this is definitely not an AA destroyer, but it's a very quick destroyer. Much like the Russian and French ones, it's got a top speed of 44.8 knots, and it's got an 810 meter turning circle, which is pretty wide, but you'd expect that for how very fast the ship is, and also how big it is. It is gigantic. It's almost like small cruiser size. And then the rudder shift with the steering gears mod, 4.2 seconds. The sidestep skill, which increases the gun range of the guns here, also increases rudder shift time, so it's actually 4.8 seconds on my build, which is totally manageable. And I mean, it's not fantastic or anything, but it's also not that bad. This game is ended, by the way. We come out top of the leaderboard on it. And, oh no, we don't. We come in second to the Kagero. But next up, we're going to showcase another game in where we get some YOLO torp strikes on some cruisers, actually. We'll see the armor penetration capabilities of the armor-piercing shells, or lack thereof, as far as those capabilities go, against a cruiser as well in this game. And I think we'll see one of the issues with the Smokescreen highlighted versus a German destroyer with sonar, which I was referring to earlier in the video. But while we move into position, actually, let's talk about that. So this is an interesting ship. Now, the guns, 10.7 second reload. It's kind of a difficult gunboat, or difficult to use as a gunboat, let's say, because of the outrageously long reload. Again, I think this long reload time was designed as a balancing factor for semi-armor piercing shells, which this ship does not have, and yet it still retains that kind of reload. I kind of wonder what the rationale is, honestly. If you don't know, this particular Italian destroyer and the Italian cruisers on World of Warships PC have semi-armor piercing shells, which are very different from high explosive or armor piercing. Shortest answer is they're kind of a combination of the two. They've sort of got the same penetration type qualities as high explosive, in that they don't necessarily care about the angle of the armor. I mean, they do in some cases, but they don't really care about the angle of the armor. All they care about is the armor thickness and whether they can penetrate or not penetrate, and they do a lot of damage. But we don't have those here in Legends. We just have high explosive, and we have AP, And with a 10-second reload on these guns, even though there are 8 of them, and the AP Alpha and the HE Alpha are both very good, it's not really the best gunboat. I mean, the guns are pretty usable, but you don't really want to rely on them too much. I think the torpedoes are more the bread and butter of this ship, and you can really get these torpedoes to be very effective if you play things smart. And that is why I went around the side of this island here. I didn't directly go into this cap circle. You can see it's being occupied by the Fletcher, who I'm getting a little bit of damage on. But I went around the side to see if I could spot. And I did spot, and I spotted that Poltava, and now that Poltava is gone. And there's still a Hipper left inside of the cap, along with that Fletcher. But here's where we're going to witness this destroyer in action versus cruisers. Now you see I was briefly spotted by the Hipper's sonar there, but now I'm out of the Hipper's range, and I'm coming back around. I'm sort of biding my time as my torpedoes reload, and taking a look at what this Hipper's doing, what my teammates are doing, and I want to wait until I think it's long enough that this Hipper's sonar has gone out. That way he doesn't have the ability to see through my smoke until I get into the range where he can proxy spot me, which is spot me regardless of whether I'm in smoke or not, and that range is 2 kilometers. So I'm just kind of biding my time here. I've only got one teammate with me. It's a cruiser. He's shooting at this Hipper, but as you can see, it's not super effective. My torpedoes are 8 seconds away from being reloaded. Obviously, the torpedoes were easy for that Hipper to dodge. He was running sonar. Now he's reversing away, though, as my cruiser buddy continues to shoot him with HE to little to no avail. And it's kind of like a stalemate between the two of them right now. But with the YOLO power of this ship, I'm going to be able to help my cruiser out and even up the odds. By this time, I am estimating that probably the Hipper's sonar is no longer in effect. I'm still taking my time, as you can see, and he's sort of reversing behind this island, which is sort of throwing a wrench into what my plan was. Take a shot at him, remind him that I'm here. Maybe he would like to come out further, but then the Baltimore appears. Didn't know the Baltimore was coming this way. Unfortunately, I hadn't perhaps done the spotting as well as I should have earlier in the game, and so the Baltimore catches me in the radar. That's when the Hipper comes out. But the Hipper's sonar has expired, and the Baltimore's radar doesn't last forever. In fact, I think he used it a little bit too early, because I smoke up and now I am undetected. This gives me all kinds of valuable time. This is the real true use of this smoke, which is to give yourself time to line up these perfect torpedo salvos. Now, I'm detected again. I don't know if that's the Hipper's sonar coming off cooldown, or if he didn't use it at all in the first place, or what it is. But it doesn't matter. He hesitated to use it, and he got too close. He turned. I was able to predict that. Now he's dead. Now take a look at this Baltimore. He's very close to us. Luckily, he's not a light cruiser. If he was a light cruiser, this would be a horrific mistake, and I would be dead. But he's a heavy cruiser, so he's got a much slower reload time. He is shooting at me with a high explosive, and he is doing a lot of damage. But I've got a lot of hit points, and I've also got a cruiser buddy shooting at him, keeping him occupied. So I'm going to launch the torpedoes at him. I'm trying to turn around and hide behind my smoke again. As I do, I shoot at the Baltimore. You can see that these AP shells really aren't penetrating his side armor. And some of them are shattering, some of them do penetrate, but they're not really doing a lot of damage. So, I suspect that these things can hit citadels and do a crap ton of damage on cruisers. And, I suspect the armor piercing is probably pretty good. At least MetaJerk, when he popped into my update stream, he told me that the armor piercing was something else on this ship. I just haven't seen it yet. In any case, I think I've probably shown you all there is to show about this ship. Oh, there's one more thing I should talk about. I can't believe I missed this, but the concealment on this ship is not great. 6.3 kilometer detectability by sea with the concealment mod and the camo. I've got that down to 5.8 with the Bay inspiration. So the concealment, not super great, but this is a very fun ship. And aha, here's the sequence where we're going to showcase the real problem with this smoke. So we run into this Z-23, we're on very low health, and of course he uses his sonar to spot us inside of the smoke. Now, of course, our teammates are spotting him because he shot at us, but imagine our teammates weren't around here, right? We wouldn't even be able to see him at that point. If our teammates weren't around to spot him and we smoked up like that, he'd be able to spot us with his sonar, and there'd be nothing we could do about it. So again, you need to be careful with this smoke. And I think you need to be careful with this destroyer in general. You really have to watch the map, and you really have to plan ahead with what you're going to do as far as YOLOing in this thing goes. It's not just like press the smoke button, run up to a ship, and boom, you win. It might be that case... It might be the case that you can do that, press that smoke button, run up to a ship, and kill it, but you might die in the process, or you might lose too much health and not be effective for the rest of the game. So it is a very, very fun ship to play, I think, and a very unique ship. There's nothing else quite like it in the game. Definitely worth it if you want to grind out all the XP to acquire it. I think once you get the hang of it, you'll have a lot of fun with this ship, and it is actually quite good, in my opinion. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know what you think about the ship in the comments. Give the video a thumbs up before you go, and consider subscribing if you haven't already. Again, thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.